reports coming out last night. Not FIFA's finest hour.
No, it wasn't, and of course, I think everyone's had the say on it in terms of how that would have affected the supporters, you know, travelling to the game. From a selfish point of view, it probably would have worked out better for myself to watch it at an easier hour. So, big decision to make whether I go to sleep, set the alarm, or stay up right through.
Yeah, as you mentioned, tricky for England fans staying up for this game without knowing if it will be delayed and when it might finish. What's your plan then?
I'd probably stay up and just watch it and go from there and try and make up the sleep the next day. I think it'll be very difficult to miss the game, obviously, but I don't think I'll be able to go to sleep at 10 o'clock and then get up at 2. So I'll probably stay right through and try and get a sleep in the following day.
OK, sounds like a plan. Right, let's talk altitude then. How much of a problem do you think this lack of time to adapt to it will be? How would you approach the game?
Well, I've just been listening to Thomas Tuchel, and there's obviously two theories that you spend time there, get used to it, but that's impossible, or you go in as late as possible. But there's no doubt it's a huge advantage to Mexico, but the one of the home nations, if you like. So, I mean, that's always been the case from year dot with World Cups. You know, if you're playing someone at home, they have that advantage. We know that ourselves from '66. And, yeah, it's not just home advantage. Obviously, the altitude plays a huge part in that as well, and hence why they've got such a great record at home for so long as well. So I think we've always felt this was the game. England would, come up against Mexico. These would be the conditions. I don't think it's a shock or a surprise. I think when you were looking at the groups, if England topped the group, it was always likely they were going to play Mexico. So, as I said, they've had plenty of time to sort of plan and prepare for it.
OK, so tough conditions. Let's talk about selection then. Right back, always a problem, or it has been during this tournament, of course. Who would you start there? Declan Rice has been mentioned as an option.
No, I wouldn't start Declan Rice at right back. I think England have got a slim chance of going all the way in the World Cup. I don't think playing Declan Rice as the right back from now to the end of the tournament would be the solution. To be honest, I think you'd leave yourself so empty and in midfield. I thought Elliot Anderson in the one game Declan Rice wasn't in there. I think found it tough dealing with opposition's counter-attacks, and that was against moderate opposition as well. So for me, Declan Rice would be in midfield. And he's got his decision to make. I think a lot of the criticism Jed Spence has had on the back of the last game, I think, is a little bit over the top. I must say that. He didn't have his best game, of course he didn't, but I don't think anyone's come out of this tournament so far besides Jude Bellingham and Harry Kane with flying colours, to be totally honest. And I think a lot of the problems that arose in the last game were not so much of the back four. It was how easy it was to get at the back four. We know we haven't got an abundance of world-class players defensively. Now that's probably the weak area of our team, but there was a lot wrong with England in that first 20 minutes, half an hour. How easy it was to as I said, get at the back four. So, yeah, lots to work on for England. It's not just about the right-back position, but I wouldn't be putting Declan Rice there at all. I think maybe the other option is maybe putting Konza there and putting John Stones in at centre-back. And, a bit more experience. He is a top-level performer. It's just that he hasn't had enough football, and we saw that in the first game. But this all just goes back to Thomas Tuchel's decisions around the right-back area. It's just not been right from day one, really, in the squad that he picked, and that's not being clever after the event. I mean, he picked two very injury-prone players right back. He brought another right back in, if you like, Jed Spence, who can cover at left back. But I think to bring Chalobah in when there was injuries in that position was just it was a bizarre decision, really, because he's not a right back, so you're going to leave yourself short.
OK, let's talk the wingers then. They've been chopped and changed. Is there an argument for someone who can keep the ball a bit better? Someone like Morgan Rogers, who sometimes plays off the left at Villa?
Yeah, but you've got to think about how Thomas Tuchel plays. It's really evident now what he likes, how he sets his team up. He likes real out-and-out wingers who hug that touchline. It's not really about getting players between the lines, in the pockets, as we'd say. Otherwise, you'd probably see a Foden or a Palmer in the squad. So he wants real wingers who look to go on the outside with pace and have connections with the number 10s and the fullback. So I don't see how he would put Morgan Rogers in that position. But the problem he's got with the four wide players he's used so far is they all look better when they don't play. So whenever one of them's on the bench, it's the best game they have because the guy on the pitch is not delivering. So you think, okay, let's put him in again. Really, and I think this will continue between now and the end of the tournament. Whenever it ends for England, I think we'll be changing the wide plays after an hour and questioning, as I said, who should play. Just none of them have done enough really so far. And in terms of absolute international class and top class, I'd probably. The one is Saka. I'm not sure the others are at that level. The one is Saka, but he just doesn't look right. He doesn't look fully fit, really, because we know when we watch him week in, week out for Arsenal over the last 4 or 5 years, a fantastic player.
Yeah, with the extra fitness element to this game, Jamie, is it a game where England's subs or finishers can have a real impact?
Yeah, I think so, especially with the conditions and, Mexico being more used to that. I think it's changes from the bench. You're going to have to be really important and decisive, I think, from the manager. And, so far, when we thought about bringing Thomas Tuchel in, the whole reason for bringing him in was we felt when big decisions had to be made at vital moments, he would get them more right than Gareth Southgate did in big finals. I always thought that criticism of Gareth Southgate was extremely harsh. But that's why you bring Thomas Tuchel in, Champions League winning manager. It's to get those big calls right at those big moments. And I think we're getting to that stage now, really. Mexico in their stadium, unbelievable atmosphere. This is the time when he's really got to earn his money. That's what we brought him in for.
Well, you talk about that atmosphere. You've played in some great home atmospheres, of course, at Anfield. How much of a difference will the Azteca actually make to a team like Mexico when up against the quality of England's players?
I think it'll make a huge difference. You see the record going back for so long, how long they've gone undefeated there. Obviously, you mentioned myself at Liverpool, and so often, you get dragged over the line by the crowd, and that's what the Mexican players will feel is the case, for themselves, really. I mean, for me, the Azteca is the World Cup stadium. You think of what's happened there before, Brazil 70, Pele winning the World Cup there against Italy, 4-1 in the final, Diego Maradona as well, and in 86. And this could be another one of those moments that we all look back on, good or bad, but a really sort of famous game. And it feels like one of those games that we'll all remember. And I think of those England fans and Mexican fans who are probably lucky to have got tickets. It does feel like it's going to be a really special game that we remembered for a very long time, because for me that is the stadium, probably in world football in some ways, because it had so many iconic games.
Yeah, well, one iconic game, of course, back in 1986. By our calculations, you were a young boy when England were knocked out by Argentina. What are your memories of that one?
Yeah, I remember watching that. It was my first World Cup, 1986. I must say, probably like most people around the world at that time, I was just mesmerised by Diego Maradona. I'd never really seen anything like that before. I grew up watching the First Division, and there weren't many Maradonas in the First Division at that time. So disappointed for England, but just couldn't believe what I was seeing in terms of Maradona and that goal. And it's still talked about now, and probably the most famous goal of all time. I think that dribble, wasn't it, really? There's not many that people remember a lot more than that.
You would have been saying, kick him up in the air, Jamie, wouldn't you, as soon as he took off over the halfway line? Just foul him.
Yeah, but Peter Reid couldn't get near him, could he? It was he couldn't. He was still chasing. I think Terry Fenwick was in there as well at centre back. But listen, you're up against genius, one of the greatest players of all time, and one of the greatest moments of all time. Even though it came against England, and we know about the hand of God. I mean, that is probably one of the most famous games of all time, and hence why, as I said, the Azteca as a stadium is right up there with the greatest.
Yeah, well, let's get back to this one then. England, a better side, you'd probably argue man for man. But when you factor in home advantage and altitude, do you make England favourites or Mexico?
No, I think it feels like a real 50-50 game because of those reasons you've just mentioned. England do have the better players, but England have been really poor in this tournament so far. We can't kid ourselves. I mean, there was probably a 25-minute spell after half-time in the first game against Croatia, and the door's just gone. And besides that, it's been distinctly average. And this idea that when we play against better teams or teams come up against us, we'll all of a sudden be a lot better. I mean, I'm not quite sure about that. It feels very reminiscent of a World Cup I was involved in 2006, where we weren't playing particularly well, and there was this, yeah, when we play a better team or we'll improve, we'll get better. And I just think it's really difficult to turn it on like a switch. When you see so many other, countries in this World Cup so far playing fantastic football. So I think if England get through here, I think it'll be a big pat on the back for us. I think it's going to be a really tough game.
OK, we saw you smiling when we showed the Cape Verde equaliser in our headlines. How amazing was that game?
Yeah, it was fantastic. And for me, I was a little bit critical coming into this World Cup of, a number of things, really. I was worried about the World Cup getting stopped certain games. I think it's only happened once, because you go back to the Club World Cup last year, it felt like a little bit of a mess. I felt the tournament was too bloated, there was too many teams, but and Cape Verde probably being one of them, but not just them. I just think the whole tournament has been fantastic. It feels like so far one of the best World Cups I've ever seen, and maybe even be going into my #1 spot if it continues and there's goals and we get a great final. I just think it's been absolutely fantastic. Stadiums are brilliant. The best players in the world are showing up as well, look fantastic, and we've had some great stories as well and lots of goals. So far, no complaints about the tournament whatsoever. It's been fantastic.
Talking of some of the best players in the world, it's Salah versus Messi in the last 16. That looks like one to savour.
Yeah, and that's what we're going to get now. We've had the group stage, we've had sort of, the last 32. Now we're getting sort of the heavyweight teams coming up against each other, or the heavyweight players, and that's what we're going to get. Going forward. I'm looking forward to Spain, Portugal as well. But I saw Mo Salah's penalty was fantastic yesterday, going for the Panenka. Saw Messi's goal as well, which is just, he's just an absolute joker. There's nothing else to really you can say about him so far. But I think they do have a favourable draw, Argentina, in terms of getting back to the sort of, the final again as well. So that's probably fell for them a little bit, and it's a game they'd expect to win against Egypt. But Egypt have, as I said, they've got Mo Salah. So they've always got a chance.
The Panenka penalties are fantastic, aren't they? Until the goalkeeper just stands there and just takes the easiest catch of all time.
Yeah, and that's where the courage comes from. So the bravery of Mo Salah to take that penalty and what was at stake last night as well. It's mind games with the goalkeeper, but a goalkeeper's also got to be very brave to just stand there. That takes a lot of courage as well.
OK, finally, Liverpool's old manager Jurgen Klopp looks like he'll become the next Germany head coach. If it happens, will international management suit him, Jamie?
Well, listen, every job he's been in, he's never been fired. He's always done a fantastic job at the 3 clubs he's been at. It just felt like a natural progression now at his age and his experience to take over the national team. It hasn't gone particularly well for them in the last 2 tournaments, so it bodes well that there's a lot that they can improve on, and that gives Jurgen Klopp a chance to be really successful in the next 2 tournaments. Obviously, the next one's the Euros, and then after that, I think the World Cup is in Europe. I think it's Spain, Portugal, and Morocco. I think it's definitely in Spain and Portugal. I've got that right. So it obviously gives you a better opportunity rather than sort of being in where it is now in the States or in South America. So it gives Germany an opportunity to certainly improve. And as I said, they've got one of the best managers in the world, and it just feels like a natural progression.